My name is Mike Sargent. I'm both a filmmaker and a film critic. I've been a film critic for about 15 years, but I've been a filmmaker for about 20 years. I've been writing screenplays for about 20 years. And the script that I'm writing, or rewriting actually, is a script called The Decoy. The Decoy is a script that kind of evolved out of a script I wrote for my first film. The script featured a woman who was the sort of the love interest of the main character, and I gave her a really interesting job. And through the course of getting that film made, and it's the only feature film I've actually made, a lot of the backstory of this character got cut out of the script, got cut out of the film, but I loved what she did, and it's a very interesting job. A decoy is a job where you actually work for a detective company or a detective agency, and what you do is, let's say a woman thinks her husband or her boyfriend or fiance is going to cheat on her or is cheating on her. What she does is she hires a woman who goes someplace where she knows the guy will be, and she pretends to be, single, and chats him up. And of course, whoever the woman is that's picked this decoy picks some woman that she knows that her intended or her significant other would go for. And of course, this woman is wearing a wire or is a secret video and kind of catches him in the act. And there it is. The relationship can be over. And when I couldn't put this into the screenplay that I wrote, I loved the job, and I built a whole story around it. And I kind of created a sort of a Hitchcock type story where she has this job, she goes on an assignment, then gets caught up in something, and everybody's after her. And I wrote this script because that's the kind of film. My first film was a romantic comedy, but I'm a big Hitchcock, political thriller, sci-fi kind of guy. And this was the kind of script that I love. I love Hitchcock. I love the whole, person in the wrong place at the wrong time type of film. And the interesting thing that happened is when I wrote this, which I wrote around 2000, shortly after I wrote made my first film, I had put it about 5-6 years in the future. And in this future, I had envisioned that oil prices had gone through the roof, and that, there was all kinds of natural disasters going on, and the economy was in fluctuation, and it was all the backdrop for this story. But then what happened in 4 or 5 years, and the film didn't get made, all this came true. So I had to update the story to really make it's supposed to be sort of near future science fiction. So I had a couple of predictions that were integral to the story, but you'd know that it wasn't today, but this is what could happen. So I updated the script around 2010, 2011, and I updated it and I created some more things having to do with natural disasters and other elements, political, going on. And then all of that happened. So finally, after a number of things, now that I'm going back to filmmaking, because I stopped being a filmmaker really to be a single dad. And now that my daughter is in college, I'm going back to filmmaking and going back to this project and a few other things. And I've updated it again. I've made it a few years in the future. And let's just hope that the things that I predict will happen won't happen this time. And I can get to make the film before, if they do, they come true. One lesson that screenwriting has taught me is that writing is rewriting. That no matter how good your first draft is, it's just a first draft. You just got to keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working on it. I remember hearing screenwriters talk about how they had written 30, 40 drafts, and I was like, oh my God, that's insane. Maybe I'll write 2 or 3. But now that I'm working on, what would probably be 12th, 13th, 14th draft of this screenplay, for a number of reasons, I get it. And I get each time it's like a sculpture. It gets honed down more and more and more. And you can say more with less. And less is more, especially in a screenplay. My goal with this screenplay is to have it, like many filmmakers want. This is a film that I want to make. I want to get made. I want to attach myself as director, but I really would like to get talked out of being a director so that I could actually probably get paid a little more, but get a producer's credit, so that I could work with a more established filmmaker to learn more about the filmmaking process. I made my first film. I'm very proud of it. But of course, there's always a lot more to learn. I'd like to learn more on a film that I've written and then be able to direct the next script that I really want to direct, where I could really show more of my visual style and how I would really like to tell stories if I had the opportunity. My screenwriting goals are that I would like to both write, direct, produce for the rest of my life. I have all kinds of stories that I want to tell, all kinds of stories. I love science fiction. I love comedy too, though that's not necessarily what I want to do. But I love science fiction specifically because I feel the relationship between science fiction and comedy is that in a science fiction or comedy, you can tell stories about the human condition that in other genres would be heavy-handed, whether it's a drama or something like that. My first script that I wrote was a big budget science fiction epic that was, based on a character I'd had since childhood, and it went pretty far. I got interest from agents and I had meetings and things like that. But I learned very quickly that people wanted to buy the story, but I would have absolutely no power. They'd take it and do whatever they want. So I wrote my first film, or the very next script that I wrote, which became my first film, to write something that I could make. I never thought that I would get the money that I did get to make it, but I did. And it was because it was a somewhat contained story. That a good screenplay is like a stage play, where it's not about the locations and everything, it's about the characters. And if you care enough about the characters, you'll stay with them, you'll stay interested, and you can tell a really good story. That's something I learned that was very powerful and very helpful for me as a screenwriter. So I write pretty much in the mornings when I first get up, and then I'm really a late night person. I love writing late at night. I can't always do that during the week when I'm working, but weekends are for writing.